It's like Caligula's playground. It's so over the top.
The hedonism and debauchery.
And the lawlessness, man. I mean, you got homeless robbing homeless and people stepping over other people when they're using drugs and whatnot.
How long you guys been here?
So we've been out here homeless now about a year and 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah, we came down in January. See, Joey, I had to do a little. I finished up my probation and all that. When I came home, Joey, he knows that I like machines. He was working around these neat machines, and I'm kind of a machinist by trade. So I went into his work and checked out the machines.
I got him a job.
And the boss was tickled how excited I was about the machines. So he said, you want to try it out? And I said, sure. So he got me a job there, man. It was working out great, close, friendly people. Eventually, my daughter got a job there. Joey's sister got a job there. So I mean, we were doing great. We were working. We were using drugs, but we were going to work.
You were using?
We were using.
Not at work.
Right.
But
right before.
As
you were functional addicts.
See the story. Well, there's no such thing. That's what I was just saying. The thing was, I don't know how familiar you are with the scene here, but the dope, heroin, is what the drug of choice was, and slowly it just turned into fentanyl, and that I really don't like, you know what I mean? The heroin, is bad enough, but you could wake up in the morning, eat your breakfast, do a little bit, go off to work and be fine. With this fentanyl crap and whatever they're putting in it, man, I mean, within 2 hours, you're gonna have to use it again, and you're no telling what it's gonna do. One time it doesn't do anything, the next time it makes you fall asleep. It's just so up and down. It's just like maintenance, man. You pay money basically to go to sleep anymore. It's no longer fun, not that it was really ever that fun.
There's not much joy left in it.
It's a chore. It's a chore.
But you can't just put it down and stop.
I'm about ready to tell you the truth. I mean, it's that bad, you know what I mean? I'm not getting, I'm speaking for myself, I don't know about Joey. Well, I'm not getting anything out of it, you know what I mean? I'm really not. There's no enjoyment anymore. It's like, it's a hassle. And then when you get it, it's like, oh, here we go, and it's to come down and get it, it's like, oh, where are we going to go to get it today? And what was good yesterday stinks today. And it's turning into too much, more than it's worth.
Yeah. Scott, what was your childhood like? You grew up where?
I grew up in Pennsylvania here in Bucks County. My childhood was great, man. I had a mother, father, older brother, older sister. My brother Larry was 5 years older than me. Janet, my sister, is 2 years older than him. So, she's about 6.5, 7 years older than me. She passed.
Good childhood.
Great childhood, man. I was a little slow in school. I won't say slow. I acted up a little bit in school, but I was always into reading. So the teacher would say, read chapter 1, I'd read the whole book. So if I had my head down and the teacher called on me, they were mad because I knew the answers. Dumb, trivial stuff. They'd suspend me for wearing my hat and, all dumb stuff like that. I was into, my family was great. My father worked at the steel mill. He was a master electrician. He was not just a baseball coach or manager, he was the president for the whole league. My mother was the president of the ladies auxiliary, so you know what I mean? They were into it. I was kind of a star in baseball. I don't want to say a star, but my dad really helped me out when I was a kid. He always had time to go out and have a catch. He worked with me pitching, so I became a pitcher. I pitched in Vet Stadium, before they tore it down. We did pretty good, met a lot of friends. And even when I was older, when I was married to his mother, I was on a adult softball league. That was great.
How'd you end up in this situation?
We just finally got out of the sports. Now, see, the whole time I was using, I would always use drugs, but I never used heroin, never. I mean, I've had a job where my boss used every day, and I said, please don't show me it, don't do it around me, don't ask me to do it.
What drug were you using, like in high school?
I would, like through high school and stuff? Smoking pot, cocaine every once in a while. We'd take an acid trip every once in a while. Meth every once in a while, like speed.
You forgetting something?
No. Oh, drinking? Yeah.
Drinking.
See, drinking was my crutch. I drank a lot. See, my parents drank.
And their parents before that.
And their parents. They were alcoholics, but they were naive. They always, paid the bills, raised us. We always had food and clothes and whatnot. So that generation, you know what I mean? I guess they looked at it different. My dad and my mom never thought of alcohol as a drug. They never really understood how somebody couldn't just put it down. You know what I mean? They didn't understand it as a sickness. I'm not sure they were ever really taught or told too much about that. But, oh yeah, man, when I was, 11, 12 years old, we'd come home from the baseball games and, our dads and the coaches would be like, hey, kids, you can have a beer. You know what I mean? And it just progressed into, well, we're going to have a couple friends up and drink a case of beer. We'll stay here. You know what I mean? And then it just turned into, I always drank. You know what I mean? I drank at work. Was never fired because of it. I always hid it. I didn't hide it from the family. I drank. Everybody said, why don't you just quit drinking? And I never had the want to. I said, when I'm ready, I will.
How old are you now?
Now I'm 52, and I quit drinking about 3 years ago.
2, 3.
No rehab, no nothing like that. I'm not Superman.
You replaced it with fentanyl, though.
I wore it out. Well, no, I was drinking when I was doing that for a little while, and then it just, like the fentanyl, it wasn't what it used to be. You know what I mean? And it was a waste of money. My health was going.
You start to lose the enjoyment you used to get out of it. It's just not there anymore.
Yeah, this fentanyl crap drains you, man. I mean, to be honest with you, it's so depressing anymore that you lose grip. I don't even have dreams anymore. I always wanted this, that, and the other, and anymore it's like whatever. And it's a shame because I got a lot of life left. And
but now you and your son are both homeless?
A lot of children. Yeah, we're both homeless. Joey's a great kid. Joey had a couple tough breaks. His mother died when he was 8, and my daughter, his full-blown sister, was 11. His mom was getting headaches and whatnot. Her eyes hurt, so doctors said, well, we'll go get a MRI for shits and giggles, and it turned out she had a tumor on her brain. And astrohematoma or whatever, some kind of
aneurysm.
Tumor. No, it wasn't an aneurysm. What they did was they gave her medicine. They did a couple surgeries where they removed the skull, for the swelling and whatnot. Gave her the radiation treatment. She did a little chemo, and it just wasn't enough, man. When they told her she was cancer-free, she died a week later. They think, they think it was like an aneurysm. The day she died or the night she died, she was supposed to have like a yard sale with Joey and his sister Jessica. And so Jessica came and got me and said, Dad, Mommy's not answering the door. Can you come up and, get us in? And I said, all right. So it was kind of unusual. So I went up and knocked on the door and whatnot, and there was no answer. And by then, Jess was like, breaking the door. I said, Jess, I'm not about to break in this door if your mother's got a date or something in there. And after a little while, we started worrying and putting, two and two together and saying, well, we're going to have to get in to see what's going on. Like Joey was saying a little while ago, my father was maintenance for the park. So we flagged him down, and he cut the chain on the door. And me, Amy, and my father went in, and we saw that she had passed. So we had called, and they believe it was just an aneurysm. I mean, I could tell by the way she had died before she hit the ground. No pain, no suffering.
I've never seen so many adults crying.
Yeah.
That day, she was well loved by her family and friends.
She was great.
Everybody was crying that day.
Yeah.
Every adult I seen that day was crying.
Yeah. Real pretty, man. She looked like the blonde from Two Broke Girls. You know what I mean? Gorgeous.
Joe, how would you describe your childhood?
I had a good childhood. I had a bum deal, with my mother being taken away like that. But I had good grandparents. His parents.
Yeah, they really stepped up.
They were good, and they raised me, and they were there for me when I needed them. So it wasn't it wasn't the best anybody could have. Like we said, I was short a mother, but it was still good. There was still good times to be had.
Yeah, we always did have fun. Very active family. Joe's got a lot of sisters. We'd always be out front, playing ball.
I've got 8 half sisters and 1 sister.
Yeah.
So, big family.
Oh, let me tell you, when Joey's sisters would come over, Joey, he'd come out with his shirt off and he's stretching. Hey, Dad, you think I can have one of your beers? My daughters were like, Dad, get him out of here. I'm like, come on, Joey. Joey's he's too smart for his own good. He's self-taught how to play the guitar. Great. He reads and speaks and can understand German.
2 years
calculus, trigonometry, all that. They were in honors. They wanted to bump Joseph up and one of my daughters, Melissa's. They wanted to bump them up in grades. And we didn't. We left them where they were. I said.
Did drugs start for you in high school, Joe?
Yeah, it started with, I guess you could say weed, but really it started with beer, and then weed, and then pills, and and so forth.
Do you feel like it's a genetic thing that you picked up from your family, from your dad, from whoever?
Well,
is it genetic? Are they saying it is genetic?
I mean, there's so many stories of grandparents and parents, and then this.
I think
it could. I would say maybe the drinking might be genetic, but with drugs, I mean, I went there and sought them out to see what they were about. I don't know if that was genetic or not.
Yeah, I personally think
probably, with like I said, with alcohol, it probably is a little bit genetic.
Like the addictive behavior, I think that's
the wiring.
Genetic, right.
Right.
It was a lot of fun, man. We laughed a lot. My dad was old school, very old school, to the point of, he was honest to a fault where we're like, man, Dad, you got to tone it down. You shouldn't say some of the things you're saying, but he was great. He was a man you couldn't argue with because if he was wrong, he'd admit it. So there was no argument. And if he wasn't wrong, he really stood his guns, man. And, I mean, he would.
Tell me about living on Kensington.
Well, living in Kensington.
Well,
It's a shame of some of the things that you see. It's actually, to me, it's sad, man. You know,
living is a little bit of a stretch. I mean,
yeah.
you know, we're alive. We really don't have direction, like goals, and I don't want to say dreams, but we don't have like the end goal. Like, we'll do this to get there. We're not sure. You know, it's not all clear right now. It's definitely a struggle.
One thing, Joey and his sisters and all of us pretty much are basically we're realists. You know, where you can look at something and people can sugarcoat it, and we see through it. You know what I mean? And it is what it is. We chose to be here.
Yeah, we chose to be here.
Right from the rip, man. It was dangerous. It wasn't what we thought. You know, I mean, it kind of was, and it kind of wasn't. You know, I wasn't used to the shock of seeing the violence, people using the bathrooms just anywhere, not cleaning themselves.
Police are
Tolerating
different down here.
The police
in Bucks County compared to Philadelphia, the police are way different.
Right. I mean,
they'll watch you shoot up and turn their back.
Yeah. I mean,
if
they tolerate a lot, but
they don't feel like dealing with it, they'll just turn their back and ignore it. It's totally.
I believe they're overwhelmed. You know, I truly do, and they're put in a position where this crap's been going on for years, man, years. So if to try to nip it in the bud now, I think they're really going to have a hard time. You know, I think we were still home when they were talking about like a safe shooting spot or something like that. I think I don't know if that's the idea or that's the
it would be nice.
That's the answer, but
now
I think it's along those lines.
It would be. There's too many people for one safe shooting site. There's too many people. It wouldn't. I mean, but it wouldn't work.
A little more education, maybe, about not as far as social studies and science and math. I'm saying just to be aware, man. There's people that
life skills.
You'd see a syringe filled with blood and they'll pick it up and use it, and they don't know whose it is, and we're like, you don't know that could have AIDS, that could have this, that, and they're like, well, I already have this and that, and I'll just clean it, and it's heartbreaking, I mean, I've went through it before where I didn't have heroin, and you go through withdrawal, and it's painful. It's desperate. Everything goes through your mind. It's terrible. It's terrible. I'd hate to see anybody go through it. And these people down here, man, they just, it's not that they want to go through it, but there's just so much volume of people and drugs everywhere that they don't have to go out and get a job. You know what I mean? Because if this guy won't give it to you, this guy eventually will. You know what I mean? Or they'll walk around and pick stuff up, and it's like, man, I don't know. I wouldn't know where to begin. That's a problem I wouldn't want. You can see what blew my mind when I came and stayed down here is they clean it, man. I mean, it's dirty down here, but you would be so surprised. I mean, this stuff was, about a foot deep with trash and bile and waste. But tomorrow morning, it's going to be clean, and it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's inspiring. I mean, to look at these people, and they go to work every morning, they clean it, for peanuts, and they feed everybody, and it's just, I never expected that they would be able to handle the situation as much as, I never thought about it. And like you said, this is your first time coming down, man, and it's a culture shock. If you never heard nothing about it, or you never seen anything on a negative side of, dark web, you know what I'm saying? Things that are illegal. This place is mind blowing. I mean, the stuff people get away with, the stuff people think about, the stuff people say. I mean, it's like, wow. It blows me away. I wouldn't know what to do.
It's a whole different level.
Yeah, I mean, I really wouldn't know what to do. It's scary.
As father and son, is it more difficult seeing your father or seeing your son in this situation?
I'll go first on this one. For me, it's great to have Joey with me, because it's somebody I can always trust. It's someone I can lean on, who I was just mentioning, Amy, the mother of the other 6 babies. She just died. We were together 21 years. And when she died, man, that was my world. And, without Joey, who knows what would have happened. I don't believe in suicide. It never popped into my brain, but, going out with a bang wouldn't, I just never expected it. I've been around death before and all that, and his mother died, but it was so, we were all together every day, and it was so bam, like a shock, like, oh my God, this happened to her, but it could happen to anybody. It could happen to us, and then I get the looks where, people are like, how could you get high with your son? You know what I mean? And it's like, first of all, you haven't walked in my shoes or his shoes. You don't know the story. Joey's going to do what Joey's going to do. He's his own man. He's 28 years old. So he's going to do what he wants to do regardless. He was using it before I was using it, I came home to him using it. I'm not saying it's the right thing, and it's no excuse at all. It's definitely wrong for a father to indulge the way we are, with his son. Maybe drink a beer, watch the game, that's one thing. Hard drugs, I wouldn't advise it. It's bad, it's terrible, it's crappy fathering. I'm not proud of it at all. I try to teach Joey street smart things. Even though I had a good life, I was in trouble for no reason at all. I was in Glen Mills when I was young, so I always dealt with I don't want to say always a criminal element, but it's pretty much, a criminal element. And, to see him getting involved in it, knowing where it leads, saying, Joe, look at me, you don't want to be here. You don't, I want better things for you. And Joey, he says, I know, Dad, and I want better things for myself. This is something I want to do. I don't know if it's, he's got to get it out of his system. I don't know. I could say stop and he wouldn't, I could say stop, and if he did, that's great. I don't want to think of myself as hypocritical, because I've never told him that I didn't do it, and I don't lie to him about things that I do. And he does know that I get upset if I see him high, or if I see him having a hard time with something. Or even, just thinking, man, Joe, I didn't want this for you. Is it my fault? There's just so much better Joey can do. I understand the point that maybe he does have to get it out of his system. Millennials nowadays, I don't know what they think, but hopefully after all this, because believe it or not, this whole experience is humbling. It really, the people though, all the things I've said about them, they blow your mind with, it could just be, someone who you think is a thug will say something so, it'll uplifting, just keep your head up, Scott, God's on your back, or we're here for you. Your friends are here for you. You got family. If you need this, if you need that, it's stuff you'd never expect. And it happens every day. And to look at it, I was like, wow, there's a whole new underworld that you just don't see until you're here. And, you know, the people don't get the respect or the, I don't know, they don't get the, hey, good job that they deserve, you know, because they're getting lumped into, oh, that's all drugs and trash down there. You know, there's a lot of people helping a lot of people. And it goes on, you know, homelessness, the drug use, the panhandling. There's, you know, everybody's, the hustle down here is amazing, man. I mean, if that's one thing, you know, if an addict was to change his mind and put as much, you know, into something legal or something productive as he does with finding that fix, man, the world would just be a better place, you know, because the resourcefulness of some people is, you know, you'd never expect it. And it only goes to show you really cannot judge a book by its cover. You know, every day I'm surprised down here.
Joe, what would you say is the most important thing you've learned in your 28 years?
Well, the most important thing now, and I'm almost 30. You know, I used to act different, obviously, when I was a teenager, younger 20s. Now, I would say, you know, tomorrow's another day. You know, the only thing that's guaranteed is change. Nothing stays the same forever, and you know, there's so many things you can't control that you shouldn't worry about. So many of them, even though we do. But you know,
Do you still have hope that you and your dad will get out of here?
yeah, absolutely.
What did you say?
Absolutely hope for the future.
Yeah.
And,
Oh, definitely.
yeah, it's not always, you can imagine, it's not always a great feeling seeing your father and your loved one, you know, out here destitute and so, you know, at times suffering and lost. But you know, one thing I do say is that we have more than a lot of people out here because we have each other.
Yeah.
And you know,
People notice that.
it's not something you can just take away. You know, we'll all die someday, but until then, we do have each other, and that's a lot.
Excellent. All right, Scott and Joe, thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Hey, no problem at all, and thank you for you know, the stuff I've seen of your work.
Oh,
Great work, man. Thank you
thank
for bringing it to the light. You know, because a lot of the stuff is, you know, I don't want to know what to say about taboo, but some of the stuff is, you know, not spoke about as much as, you know, maybe everything else.
Yeah, that was so cool how, you know, we're here on the other end of it now.
Yeah.
Not just watching it on our phone, and
Right.
that's just so cool.
To be honest with you, you know, I would love, after all this is said and done, the experience, to help people somehow. You know, I know that's the right thing to say, and it's cliche.
Popular thing to say, right?
But it really, really makes me feel better than I've ever expected to help somebody. You know, help somebody in a jam, and I don't mean, you know, get them high or nothing, because a lot of times, you know, being older out here, everybody calls me Pops because they heard him say, "Hey, Pops." So now I'm Pops out here.
Yeah, because I say Pop, now everybody calls him Pop.
So I don't know if it's because of the, you know, the terminology or the label Pops, but people, a lot of people, more than I expected, ask for advice, and I'm thinking, who am I to give advice, you know? But, you know, a lot of people, they respect the relationship me and Joey have. You know, they don't see when we leave, you know, the little arguments and the bickering we have, but they, you know, they respect how we look out for each other, and we can do it every day, day in and day out. You know, there's not days that we don't argue. It's, you know, we're normal. We're just in an abnormal place. You know, like I said, this is a very abnormal place, man. It really is. You know, this is definitely not Oz, and you know, you're over the rainbow, and you know, it's a shame. Like I said, when people come down here, you can walking down the street, you can say he's new, she's new, he's new, and the place just eats them up, and it chews them up and spits them out, man. And it's a shame. You just feel like running and saying, "Hey, look,
Hey,
just
what
go.
are you doing? Get the hell out of here.
Go now, man. Do not be here when it gets dark. Just go now." That's like I said, we don't stay in Kensington. You know, we come do our thing, you know, say hi to our friends and whatnot, do our little hustle, and that's it. We get out of here.
Yeah, at night, we're gone.
Yeah,
we learned that in the first 2 weeks. We learned that.
It's dangerous, man. They're beating people up. They stab, they shoot, they throw people in front of the trains. You know, and like I said, it's just
for no reason,
overwhelming for the for law enforcement. I don't know how they would do it or what they would do. Some kind of task force, some kind of something. But you know, these guys, I've seen them turn their heads so they don't have to deal with it. I think a lot of them are just afraid of the repercussion of doing something. You know what I mean? They do something good to help, and then the rest of the week they're going to be out here getting looked at. So, you know,
they live here too.
Yeah, it's definitely an experience out here. Not one everybody would, you know, get through, but you know, I'm going to learn a lot when I'm finally at the other end of this.
Yeah, I believe once it's all said and over, that it'll make us a stronger person.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Scott and Joe, thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Okay, thank you.
I wish you guys the best of luck.
Great.
Thank you.